little boy lost in search of little boy found.
We're both from Brooklyn.
New York.
New York, yes. Oddly enough, born in the same hospital in Brooklyn, many years apart. And our early exposure to music, when you were 6 years old and Jewish in Brooklyn, you studied the piano. That was automatic.
It was a rite of passage.
Yes, you took piano lessons. And oddly enough, Marilyn's mother took her to the children's concerts at Carnegie Hall.
Every Saturday
Every
morning.
Saturday. The conductor was a man by the name of Walter Damrosch. My mother took me there every Saturday morning.
We never met.
We never met. But there was...
Either at the hospital or at Carnegie Hall.
But that's a very early exposure to wonderful music. And we look forward to it every Saturday. It was terrific.
And it was a time when music education in the schools was very important, in the public schools. I remember it as being very important and very influential. And I shudder at the cuts being made in music education as we speak.
Let's take it nice and easy.
You know, when you are taught by Rodgers and Hammerstein and Cole Porter and Irving Berlin, who wrote in all styles, and you learned from them when we were kids, listening to these great writers who could write with any genre. And
Wrote for characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Wrote characters.
Yeah.
Writing for Frank Sinatra was not different from that. Writing for Frank Sinatra was like writing for a character in a theater piece. I mean, he was theater. You knew it was like writing a custom-made suit for somebody, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea of writing in a dramatic context always interested us. And before we ever were hired by anybody to write in a dramatic context for a film, we gave ourselves, when I said exercises earlier, we would read a story in a newspaper, for example, that was an interesting incident. And we would say, imagine if we were hired to write a song for this.
Yeah.
And we would write a song based on that. And we did this quite studiously, so that I think there was a decision made early on that we wanted to write always in a dramatic context.
As opposed to the record.
As opposed to just writing songs,
Yeah.
that would find their way out on their own, maybe.
And as exercises, once we took 12 or 14 arias from the great operas and wrote lyrics. We had never shown them to anybody.
In the context of the opera.
Yeah.
So I guess we were preparing to write either for film or for the stage from the beginning.
Like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Norman showed us the film, wonderful film, and in the middle of, it's roughly the middle of the film, I think, Steve McQueen, who had just masterminded a bank robbery, is flying a glider in as I remember it, a rather cloudless blue sky. And a glider has no sound. So the only sound on the film is the sound of the wind a little bit. It was heaven, because we were used to being interrupted by dialogue or sound effects, and nothing ever ran very long. And the original cut that he showed us, that Norman showed us, I think it was maybe 7 or 8 minutes long, that sequence. He said, Norman said, I want a song that's going to show me, tell me, make the audience feel some kind of anxiety that this character was feeling at this moment. The sky is cloudless, and he's doing something which is
He should
pleasurable
enjoy,
for
yeah.
him, and yet there's something that's not right. He said he can't turn his mind off. So we said, okay. We went home. Michel Legrand was here from Paris, and he was a house guest of ours at that time. So Michel writes like you turn on a faucet, he writes melodies.
Yeah. 6, 7, 8 melodies.
And he wrote 6, 7, 8 melodies for this one place. And they were all wonderful. And they were all completely different. Not one was like the other. And we couldn't possibly make the choice. And so the three of us decided to just let them sit overnight. And in the morning we came downstairs, and the three of us had decided on the same melody. And if one had been asked the night before, it would have been the least likely of the three.
Yeah, yeah. And, it was, the one we chose was a Baroque-style melody, kind of never-ending.
Ribbon.
Like the flying of a glider,
You say that, but I never agree with that. I never...
Well, yeah.
Maybe you felt that.
Yeah.
I never did. Okay.
And then, because of...
That's called an argument. Right now, that's about it. Okay.
Then, because of what Norman wanted to underline, the anxiety this character was feeling, anxiety is a circular emotion. It's like you go to sleep, as Marilyn said, sometimes you can't turn your mind off. So all the images in that song are circular images, round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel. And when we got
Apples, clocks.
yeah, and when we got through, for the first draft, because things are not written, they're rewritten over and over. We thought that "Windmills of Your Mind" was a very attractive phrase, and maybe we should find another place for it, which we did in the song, and that became the title. But it didn't start out that way at all.
What are you doing the rest of your life?
Very interesting assignment.
Yeah.
Again, Michel wrote a lot of melodies.
Yeah.
Nothing was exactly, they were all wonderful, but nothing was exactly right. Nothing really spoke to us. Again, he was staying with us, and we're sitting and working one day, and he's playing melody after beautiful melody. And we said to him, one of us said, what happens if the first line of the song is, what are you doing the rest of your life? He said, I like that. He put his hands on the keyboard, and as long as it takes to play that melody, complicated though it is, that's what he did. He played it. Yeah. And he said, you mean something like that? And Alan said, no, exactly like that. Play it again. And he said,
I don't know.
I don't know what I... Fortunately, Alan, knowing Michel, always had the little tape recorder going. Yeah. So we played it back to him, and he said, oh, yeah, And then he played it again, and we said, now, go away.
Leave us
Just
alone.
leave us alone, because we knew if he stayed, he would start playing around with it. We said, no. Just go to a movie, go to 2 movies.
Papa, can you hear me?
Well, I think you become an extension of the screenplay, ideally. The voice of the character should be consistent with the voice that the character has in the screenplay. So in that sense, you try to be an extension of the screenplay. Yeah. See, that is when you learn from the director what the function of the song is. What does he or she want a song to accomplish here? I mean, it's not there just for the sake of a song. It's there because There's something that a song can accomplish better than a few lines of dialogue or something else. That really is, I mean, there are times that we've been shown films to write songs and we've said to the director, you really don't want a song here. There's nothing to say here. A song would not accomplish anything here that we know. Maybe another writer, but we've done that on several occasions.
Yeah, we've said no, that there's no reason.
There's no role for the song. Yeah. It would be extraneous.
Yeah.
But when it's clearly stated by a director, and when you talk about Sidney Pollack or Norman Jewison or Richard Brooks, those three, in our particular cases early in our career, they were directors who really understood music and understood the role of a composer writing a score and what a cue was supposed to accomplish in a particular place.
And they also understood the truthfulness of the scene and the characters, and because when you have a chance to work with that truth and you find the universal, that nugget, that universal, then it works not only in the context of the movie, it works everywhere because you're working with the truth.
Time, I've been passing time, watching trains go by.
Carefully. No, it works this way. One is the creator and the other is the editor, and those roles change
in
within
seconds.
It's like pitching and catching, back and forth. And when we write 4 bars or 8 bars, I sing them because, as we said earlier, the function of a lyric is to sing. And so singing is part of the process. We have the melody on a tape or a CD, and we play it over and over again. In the case of Yendel, we have characters, situations to deal with, and so. But and the idea for some of them has been percolating, for a long time. And as we said before, we have given, in this case, Michel, prose about what the idea of the song might be and so forth. And he's read the script. I mean, again, a composer who was a dramatist. He has all those and chops, yeah. And but it's communication back and forth.
A lot of silences. When our daughter, who's now a grown woman with a daughter of her own, but when she was in kindergarten, I guess, the first day of school, the teacher gathered the children around her and said that she was going to go around the room and each child would tell something about themselves and their parents, siblings, if they had any, and so on. And one child said, my name is Jimmy, and my father is a lawyer, my mother is and I have a dog named something. And it went around like that. And it got to Julie, and she said, my mother and father wake up in the morning and they go across the hall into a room that they work in. And they close the door. And sometimes there's music playing, sometimes there isn't. Mainly they just sit in a room and think, and somebody pays them. That was her version of what her parents did.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of silences and long periods of silence.
And sometimes...
Very often, oh yes.
Yeah, no, go ahead, sweetheart.
Very often, the silence can be minutes long, and very often we break the silence at the same moment, at the same place. Whatever the journey was that we were taking here, from the point at which we left the idea to what the next point was, we
say the thought comes out.
We arrived at the same very often the same word
Yeah.
at the same moment, and it could be 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
It happens many, many, many times. So the process is, by now, it's
And,
so...
there's a lot of shortcuts. We never have to say this may be stupid. This, none of those things. We don't have to do that.
In the moonlight.
We keep rewriting it. When they take it away,
That's when it's finished.